Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about David Milroy and Geoffrey Narkle's play, King Hit. So this is an autobiographical play about primarily the early life of Geoffrey Narkle. Thematically, it deals with very unfortunately common experiences for Indigenous people, whether that's Aboriginal Australians like Narkle, Maori in New Zealand, or First Nations, Native American, Inuit, and Métis peoples in North America. Any place where you have settler colonialism that has dispossessed the Indigenous people, compromised or broken their relationships to the land, to specific places, and typically contained them in reserves, reservations, whatever it is. You have similar sets of cultural problems. Alienation, poverty, alcoholism, often domestic violence, although Narkle doesn't seem to have grown up in a household with domestic violence. And so that's not really an element in King Hit. Domestic violence isn't. But definitely violence is an important element of the play. Because as a young adult, Narkle and his family grew up on a reserve, in poverty, definitely struggling, etc., etc. They do okay, comparatively. They find some ways to make money. His father actually manages to get citizenship, and then Geoffrey and his sisters are taken away by the court, seemingly for no particularly good reason, and they're put into a mission school. So I'm going to talk about that quickly, because we get this bit where these two actors play the judge and child services, something like that. An attorney. I don't know who makes these kinds of recommendations in the Australian system of the late 50s and early 60s when this portion is set. But so you have actor one who's playing the judge and actor two who's playing whoever it is that makes these kinds of recommendations. So actor one says, form to accompany mandate of committal of award. Health of family. Actor two says, good, Your Honor. Actor one says, locality of home. Actor two says, Coolballing Road Reserve, Norongan. Actor one says, favorable or unfavorable. Actor two says, favorable, Your Honor. Actor one says, type of house. Actor two says, wooden 2-room cottage in good state of repair. Actor one says, sleeping arrangement. Actor two says, 2 beds for 4 children. Actor one says, cleanliness. Actor two says, very clean, Your Honor. Actor one says, are home conditions adequate for a child's needs? Actor two says, yes, Your Honor. Actor one says, attitude of children to schoolwork. Actor two says, in each case, children are interested. And so basically, this is the first bit, right? You're going through all of these different criteria for neglect, for insufficient housing, insufficient education, etc., etc. And everything is good. All of the boxes seem to be checked. But then we get to this one. Actor one says, previous court appearances. And this was actually something that we had seen dramatized before. Geoffrey, seemingly at the sort of instigation of some other boys from his town, had broken into a house that was being painted and splashed paint around or something like this. It doesn't seem like a major crime, but is the kind of crime that in a racially biased justice system, like that of settler colonies, like Australia, an Aboriginal person is going to be held to the most stringent standards the law will allow. Nonetheless, in that immediate instance, Geoffrey had been let off because it was determined that he had been basically peer pressured into this and that he was not himself a troublemaker, but his father was fined £5, which in the 1950s for an impoverished Aboriginal family in Australia was quite a lot of money. But now things sort of come back to haunt them. So actor 1 says, previous court appearances. Actor 2 says, Geoffrey willfully spoiling a dwelling with paint. It appears the parents do not demonstrate any control over their children. Actor 1 says, what is the opinion of the department? Actor 2 says, another case of delinquent parents and very adult ones at that. They have a good set of circumstances, a nice home, income, and lovely children. Unfortunately, they are not fit to have children. Actor 1 says, the court decision is for the children to be committed to the Child Welfare Department until 18 years of age and to be placed in wandering mission. Next. So, the one factor here, the stated factor, seems to be Geoffrey's previous court appearance, in which it was determined that he's basically a good kid who made a mistake. While this is happening, the parents have gone actually to another town, and they've left the kids with, I think, the aunt and uncle. And they've gone to another town for a family funeral, basically. So while Geoffrey's parents are out of town, the state sends people to come and get these kids, take them away without any possibility of appeal, without no sort of habeas corpus rights, right? Like the parents are not brought in by the court and asked about the nature of their family situation, etc., etc. The kids are simply taken by the state because the state determines that they are not fit to have children. And this, of course, is a very, very common element in Indigenous experiences under settler colonialism. I know in the United States and Canada, for instance, the residential school system was designed specifically to take Indigenous children away from their families and to strip away their Indigenous identities. This seems to be the same kind of thing that Geoffrey experiences in Australia. And so he goes to this mission that's sort of a school. They teach him for a while, and then they're like, we're going to train you to be a farm laborer, and they do that for a while, and then they're like, now we're going to apprentice you to be a cabinet maker, but we stopped teaching you mathematics in like the 3rd grade, so you can't actually be a carpenter because you need math for that. You need to be able to do calculations and geometry and whatever it is. And so there is this experience of systematic and systemic oppression and not just a lack of opportunities, but a sort of active taking away of opportunities by the Australian government and the mission school that these children are sent to. But once Geoffrey gets out of that, once he becomes an adult at age 18 and he is able to leave the mission school, he struggles to find anything. He goes to Perth, which is where his, I think, aunt and uncle live. He's trying to find them, but the government officials in Perth are basically like, yeah, you should just go back to the mission school. We're not going to help you in any way. Just go back there, apologize for leaving, and, whatever. He does not do that. Instead, he sort of kicks around Perth for a while. We get this bit. My first taste of freedom included my first taste of beer, and from that to Brandivino, and then to Plunk. I woke up on a veranda in North Perth somewhere. I'd lost my suitcase, but it didn't worry me. No one else had one. From then on, I spent most of my time drinking and patching up money to buy more drink. Sometimes we had a house to sleep in, and sometimes we slept in the park. And so there is this period of homelessness. And again, this is very typical of Indigenous experiences. Alcohol abuse, homelessness, poverty, the inability to find a job because especially white-owned businesses are reluctant, if not outright refuse, to hire Indigenous people, etc., etc. And so you've got all of these sort of thematics. And eventually, Geoff finds work in this sort of traveling boxing troupe, where he essentially fights for money. And so that becomes his life, is this life of violence, this life of struggling to make money because it's not the kind of work that pays well, etc., etc. And so you have this wide range of negative experiences that are unfortunately very typical of the lives of Indigenous people under the constrictions and the systemic and societal violence of settler colonialism, capitalism, etc., etc. But the other thing that I want to read to you is this author's note that Narkle puts at the beginning. It's printed in this edition, Contemporary Indigenous Plays. So this is an author's note that he wrote in 2002. The play premiered in 1997, so this was a few years later, sort of reflecting on the process of creating this play with David Milroy. So what he writes here: King Hit for me was a realization that I carried the pain of the stolen generations with me. The reality of losing my family bond and the searching for who I was came to the point where I just had to do something. I've seen too many brothers and sisters die, seen the effects of being taken away impact across generations, and I had to force myself to take the first step toward healing. It made me aware that it's all right to talk, to seek out positive ways of dealing with pain, and to push forward with a meaningful life. I've managed to find a spiritual center, both through culture and my belief in God, and it's helped me forgive myself for the hate I've carried, the loss I've felt, and the turmoil I've raised up from. I cried all the way through King Hit, tears of joy, tears of pain, and in sharing my story with you, I share my appreciation of life.